Hey, hey, hey guys, welcome to PBHS Edge. We're finally in divisional week. We're coming off a not so wild wild card weekend. 4 out of 6 of those wild card games were absolute blowouts. The Bucks game looks a little bit close, but it was not close at all. And just looking for these divisional games, let's hope it's more competitive and just better to watch because those wild card games are just snooze fests at some points. But diving to the first divisional game, we have the Titans taking on the Bengals. This game, in my opinion, I've been saying it for a while. I said it before, I believe. It depends on if Derrick Henry plays. I saw this matchup happening. I called it last week. I told Mr. Allison Rashad the Titans are going to play the Bengals. And this just depends on Derrick Henry. Because if Derrick Henry plays, the Titans have a great chance of winning this. But that offense for the Bengals have, it's young, but it's powerful and it's firing on all cylinders. And it's going to be hard to catch up to them without Derrick Henry. If the Titans have Derrick Henry, they can control the game, they control the clock, and they can keep Burrow on the bench, keep Chase on the bench, and that's what they need to do and take control of this game. Tannehill, he can control the ball. That's how they won games in the past. That's how they beat good teams in the past, like the Ravens and their other playoff runs they've had. And it's just a formula they need to keep repeating. And if they don't, this could go the Bengals' way. But it just all boils down to Derrick Henry playing. So if Derrick Henry doesn't play, I have the Bengals winning this game 31-17. But if Derrick Henry plays, I think it can go the Titans' way of a score of
He's
21.
playing. He's playing. Just give your score. He's playing.
Yeah, for watching this game for the Bengals and Raiders, I mean, it was a good win. Bengals still stopped the Raiders last minute comeback, but like to me, that win wasn't as impressive as, many people would see. Like, yeah, the Bengals came out with the W, but they still weren't able to like halt Derek Carr in his last minute comeback. Like, yeah, they got the last minute interception, but I don't know. I felt like the Bengals should have had a way bigger margin of winning, like score wise. But if it's like Derrick Henry's playing, I think that this Cincinnati's run defense is a little shaky. So as long as to Ryan Tannehill, gets a good mix of throwing the ball to AJ Brown, if Julio Jones decides to come through, he can always get the ball to him, and most importantly, get a few Derrick Henry, get him in the mix, because Derrick Henry is a total game changer. Once he's on the field, he's hard to take down. He will run all over your defense, and the Bengals losing Larry Ogunjobi and like on that defensive line, it's getting a little bit more shaky, and then the run defense is a little iffy. So on the notion that Derrick Henry is playing, I will take the Tennessee Titans 24, Bengals 14.
I don't think there's a question Henry plays. I mean, he's not working to come back if he's not playing in this game. And let's be real, if he doesn't play in this game, it'll be very different. But I think he will. At the same time, I think that Tennessee would have pulled it out anyway. And I state this because I feel like the injuries that Cincinnati had up front on offense, particularly the offensive line, were significant. And also, of course, defensively got banged up a little bit on the front line as well. That's going to factor in. The Titans had a bye week. Vrabel's going to be well prepared for this game. Tannehill has won in the playoffs. He knows how to win in the playoffs. He's done it before. And I expect him to win this game pretty soundly. I think this is going to be a blowout. And I say that because I just feel like even though the Bengals won that game, they didn't punt, right? Did they punt at all? Right near the end of the game, maybe a couple of times, but for the most part, they didn't punt for almost 3 quarters. Impressive offensive showing, but you're playing against a very different defense, and defense has improved throughout the course of the year. I expect Tennessee to come out and get this one easily. I think 34-10 will be the final. And congratulations, Bungles, on your one playoff win this century. It's the only one you're getting. And I'm going to go ahead and say the same thing as I said about the Clowns last year. Don't expect this Cincinnati team to come back and be a force next year. This is absolutely a one-year wonder. And I'd mark it, write it, print it, and ship it.
They can go pick their participation trophy up next to the where then put it on the mantle next to the Browns. Yeah, good win for them last week. I mean, I'll say it again. It was on this show when Mr. Hawley came on that the Bengals, we helped right the ship after they absolutely got destroyed. But good win for them. I mean, those fans loved it, just like the fans up in Buffalo. I got to address it. The elephant in the room. The 4 million pound elephant that was sitting on the Patriots on Saturday night. My goodness. So I'll keep it short and sweet, but that was an impressive performance by Buffalo. I texted with Mr. Ellis. That was no Trash Allen performance in that one, man. He was a garbage can running downhill. And I mean, that pass he threw to Dawson Knox, he said he was throwing it away. By the way, bite your tongue, Joe Montana, Dwight Clark. Give me a break on those things. But that was just an impressive performance. And to me, the play of the game, it definitely changed the moment. Probably not the outcome, but that Micah Hyde interception was unbelievable. I mean, what a play! I mean, because that was a great ball. As a Patriots fan, I got to try to find something to come out of it. And for me, that was. I thought Mac Jones played well. I thought Kendrick Bourne played well. So guys got experience. I mean, you're not going to win it every year. And as I can see now that we may never win it again. Who knows? But we're back in the pack. We're back in the mix with everybody else. And I like that they're learning. Guys got some experience. Maybe we'll see what happens next year. So on to this one. Derrick Henry's got to play. You don't play all this up and not play Derrick Henry. He's arguably one of the top 5 players in the NFL. Definitely one of the top 5 difference makers, as you guys have all mentioned. And I think they win whether he plays or not, because that was Cincy's big win. And I don't think they can recreate that on the road. And they played against the Raiders secondary. They had to kick a bunch of field goals. The worst secondary in the league, I think, the Raiders scoring secondary. And so they had to kick field goals. And if that's going to happen to them in this one too, because they're not going to make as many long gains. They're not going to move it down the field like they did against this defense. I just don't see that happening, as Mr. Ellis said. Vrabel's going to have them ready. I'd love to see Derrick Henry play, because at this point, now that my team's out of it, I want to see the best players playing football. I want the defensive players for Cincinnati. Hendrickson, I think his name was, he was causing chaos on the outside, and that was huge for them. And so to see Cincinnati have a little defense to go with that offense, it'll make a great football game. But as I heard some people talk about today, when cornerbacks have to come up and tackle Derrick Henry, they get a little nervous. They go low real quick because you can't touch that man high. And Derrick Henry is a player, and he goes through them, he goes over them, he goes around them. He's everything. So I hope he plays, because it'll be exciting. I think Tannehill has what it takes to complete the throws he needs to complete. And I think we're on blowout city again. Who knew we were going to have 2 of them last week, 3 of them last week, maybe even 4. 31-0 Bucks at halftime. I'm going to see this one. I think it'll finish 31-20. Maybe not blowout city, but I don't see Tennessee struggling at all.
It'll be interesting too. I remember back in 2001 when Jerome Bettis was kind of the same situation, where he missed several games at the end of the season, came back 2001 to attempt to play in the playoff game, and they went to give him the pain shot, and it missed. And it was last minute, and he had to sit the game, right?
Oh, wow.
Now, we ended up winning the game against a team that someone in this particular podcast roots for. And I'm pretty confident that team didn't even score in that game. But that said, first of 3 consecutive playoff wins against that particular team for our squad. But with that said, that could be a factor too. So you never know. There could be something last minute like that. But the difference is today, if you're one of these people that wager on these affairs, is apparently is popular in the U.S. these days. Back then, you couldn't make that last minute switch. You were screwed. Whereas today, it's a different story. But I do remember seeing that and being in a restaurant, watching the game with several other patrons in the restaurant who were very embroiled in the results with things that were more than just their results. And it was pandemonium. So thank goodness for modern technology.
Mr. Ellis taking shots. But Mr. Woodard, I feel like every cornerback replays that image of Josh Norman getting just thrown across the field by Derrick Henry every time they go to tackle him.
It's too bad he didn't throw him out of Washington a couple of years before they had to pay him all that money. My gosh.
Hey, I was really excited about that Odell Beckham matchup. It was fun while it lasted. All right, up next, we got the 49ers versus the Packers. The 49ers, I wouldn't say they impressed me, but they did what I expected them to do last week. They went in and beat the Cowboys. I've been saying it, Cowboys are frauds. They're always frauds. It's never their year. They're always going to choke. And the 49ers, they have the playoff experience needed to win these games. Jimmy Garoppolo's a good quarterback. Deebo Samuel's an amazing player. And Kyle Shanahan is a great coach. But now they're coming up against really good opposition. Aaron Rodgers, Matt LaFleur, Devontae Adams, just the Goliath of the NFC, I guess you want to say, because I have the Packers over the Bucks. And this matchup is going to be really interesting because Rodgers has had a week to sit. The playoffs is when he cooks. Besides the championship, he doesn't do good in the championship, but we know he does great in divisional round. And I just feel like everything is just lining up for the Packers to have a good game here. The 49ers are the hot team. I would be really excited if I was the 49ers. They were the underdogs, major underdogs against the Cowboys, and they still came out and won. And they have the underdog mentality. We've seen what the underdog mentality can lead to. But I just don't think they have enough of that to stop this Packers offense in Lambeau Field. I just feel like the odds are stacked against the 49ers, and they can't overcome this one. So give me the Packers winning this one 31-20.
Yeah, like you said, the 49ers are red hot, but like, it's their third straight away game, which is tough on a team when you consistently have to be traveling around. And you're going to Lambeau Field, which is like a dangerous environment to play on in the playoff time because you're on a cold field. You're going against up against one of the greatest NFL quarterbacks of all time in Aaron Rodgers and like Devontae Adams, like you said, Matt LaFleur. But the 49ers did have a good win last week, Deebo Samuel doing Deebo Samuel things, asking for the ball and scoring the next play. But I think this game belongs to Green Bay. It rightfully should be. They get David Bakhtiari back to bolster that offensive line, and it's home field advantage for Green Bay. That's always a huge thing. So, I would take Green Bay in this one, but I don't think the 49ers would not go out without a fight. I think that, it'll be neck and neck during a halftime, but I think Green Bay will take charge in the second half and finish it off. Give me the Packers 38, 49ers 28.
Wow. This is a game that I've been excited to pick for a couple of weeks, by the way. Just going to point that out. But as I look at this game, I say to myself that every year I've watched the playoffs, we know that the most physical team is the team that wins. And to me, the more physical team is San Francisco. It's also a team that's been to a Super Bowl more recently. Unlike the guy who barely has a 500 playoff record that's lining up at Lambeau behind center, and you can stack 97 MVPs, Aaron Rodgers, just like you stack 97 lies. You can stack 97 MVPs, but you have one Super Bowl, which, by the way, Rashard Mendenhall, I'm sure you owe a lot to for that one. But after your one good half of football and a terrible second half that you had. But with that said, I expect you to blow it again. And I think you'll blow it because it feels like the Steelers 2017 to me, if I look at Green Bay. Everybody's coming back. You're getting all the guys healthy. This is a perfect storm of a game that you should run over, right? But you got an upstart team who's a little banged up, but super physical and super hungry. They've got some experienced players, particularly when I saw Kittle, carrying that boombox, into Dallas. I mean, you just knew it, man. You knew they were going to roll that game. And the fact that it even got close was crazy. But I expect them to have that same energy and fire. And I just think they're a better coach team. I think this Green Bay team is a mirage. And if they played in a real division, their record would look very different. I think they're going to lose this game. And I think they're going to lose it, in a way where they maybe come back close at the end. But I got San Francisco pulling upset city and sending the genius home to study and figure out how to immunize the playoff troubles within him. 23 San Francisco, 20 Green Bay.
It's going to be crazy when Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh next year. It's going to be tough.
You've heard it first. I've been a Steeler fan my entire life. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback for Pittsburgh Steelers next year, I am no longer a fan of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Until he leaves.
No, never.
Oof.
Because it's never going to happen. Okay?
We're accepting fans, Mr. Ellis.
No. Washington is accepting fans. Well.
Nah. Screw Washington. Come to Baltimore. We're better.
Stay out of the AFC North. We don't like them.
We just got rid of a guy who had a better playoff record than a guy we'd be bringing in. I'm not interested.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't even know what Ben's playoff record is. It's going to be pretty good.
I believe he's 4 or 5 games over 500 overall. Rodgers not quite there. Also been ahead of Rodgers, of course, all time in passing yards in the playoffs, which I'm also going to predict is going to continue this year as well. And he will not catch Ben in that stat either this year. He'll be one behind.
So this one, you guys said a lot of great things on this one, and I got to go back to what one of you guys said was the more physical team wins. I'm not sure, Mr. Ellis, you say that, and I think for me, I agree. You know, this is the playoffs. Now, physical also means maybe you out talent the other team. We'll get to that game that's coming up pretty soon in the show. But for me, I think a little bit of what happened. I like the 49ers in this one. Now, I actually picked the Cowboys last week because I was going with a home team theme, except for the Bills, of course. But I really had my heart set on San Francisco, but I went anyway with the home team, much to my demise. And I think in this one, I was really impressed with what San Francisco did. Now, one of the things I was impressed by was that physicality. I think that game, they should have been ahead even more in that game. And Jimmy G threw a terrible interception that kept the Cowboys in it. And that worries me a little bit. I mean, that was an atrocious throw. And I worry about that if he makes another throw like that. Now he has been said, taken the team to a Super Bowl more recently than Aaron Rodgers. And so I think he learns from those mistakes. And I think that they make good calls to try to keep him out of that situation. It's just a horrendous play that gave Cowboy fans life and ultimately helped tear their heart out. But I think in this one, Nick Bosa and Fred Warner potentially not being 100%, or maybe even being out, that's huge. So one's got an ankle or a knee, the other one's got a concussion protocol, you know, and so if they're out or they're under, that's going to take away a little of that physicality, and so that could be a problem. So in this one, I think on God, you're the one that said it in terms of divisional rounds. This is where Aaron Rodgers shines, because when it comes to the next round, now if he does advance and I pick next week, I won't be picking him, because I think in the divisional round, you're right, pressure's off a little bit. It's the first one, the team has to come in, they're a little beat up. So for me, I think ultimately they'll have enough of what it takes. Still don't trust their defense, but they have shown me wrong a few times, finishing in the 1 seed. But I think ultimately it's going to be tough for the Niners to come into Lambeau and be as physical as they were in Dallas, although I hope they can, because they were impressive. There's no doubt about it. I'll go with, I got to go with the Packers in this one, 30-27.
And that Packers special teams is bad.
Terrible kicking.
Bad. And yeah, Crosby's
Done. He's been there for a long time, and it's time to move on. I think for 2 weeks they've been preparing probably for the Niners. They know. Come on, you kidding me? Mike McCarthy, they know. They've been preparing for the Niners for 2 weeks. And so for me, that means that they're ready for it. So we'll see.
I might also be wagering with my heart here. So also a tragic flaw on this side of things. But
All right, next up, we got the Rams versus the Buccaneers. I was surprised by that Rams game last week. I don't know what to call it. The Rams playing good, or just the Cardinals just falling flat on their face. Like, that was shocking. They couldn't get past their own 29-yard line. I believe that's what they were saying. They kept getting the ball at the 29 or like close to the end zone, and they just did not get past that. Kyler Murray just looked lost. Like, he looked like the toddler people joked about him being, because they make jokes about him looking like a toddler running around. He quite literally played like a toddler running around. That pick six he threw was, I don't know what he was thinking, what he thought he was gonna do there, but just mistakes upon mistakes upon mistakes. And luckily enough for the Rams, there was enough mistakes for them just to cruise into a win. I will admit Matthew Stafford played a decent game. Odell Beckham Jr. showing why he's that top receiver, or he's a great receiver. I still believe Baker Mayfield was the issue, and he's proving that he was the issue. And he's enjoying a great little purple patch right now with the Rams. Hopefully it goes into next season. That would be great for the Rams. But on the other side of the ball, there's the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers picked up some injuries. I forgot their offensive lineman's name. Tristan Wirfs. He was injured against the Eagles, which is a major setback because they didn't need an injury like that against the Eagles. The Eagles are supposed to be light work. and they're losing people like Tristan Wirfs, their best offensive tackle. And the guy that came in and replaced Tristan Wirfs was getting cooked by a 34-year-old Ryan Kerrigan. Ryan Kerrigan was manhandling that tackle, one hand pushing him, getting to Tom Brady. And Aaron Donald, Von Miller, anyone on that line can cook that guy. And hopefully Tristan Wirfs is back. Oh, you were going to say something, Mr. Ellis? Oh, hopefully Wirfs is back, because if he's not, it might be bad for the Bucks. But Buccaneers are also high powered. They got the pedigree. They're the reigning champs. Tom Brady always finds a way to pull these things out, and I'm not going to go away from him this pick. Matthew Stafford is here. I feel like Matthew Stafford's never been here before, so give me Tom Brady winning this one by himself, 34-21.
Yeah, the Rams played a really good game against the Cardinals. Cardinals winning or the Rams winning a point of attack usually. Like you said, Kyler Murray was struggling a lot in his first playoff start, but it was good to see how, like you said, on good OBJ showing why he was worth the trade. And again, I agree with you, showing that Baker Mayfield was the problem in Cleveland, because without Baker Mayfield, OBJ is just straight balling with Cooper Kupp into that offense. And how about Cam Akers? Tearing his Achilles in July and putting up 95 yards in a playoff game. That's really impressive from somebody that's like coming off that type of, injury. But, like Ungud said, the Bucks are dealing with some offensive line issues. Tristan Wirfs, Ryan Jensen, their center, have suffered injuries in that game, but the Bucks still finished out strong, beating the Eagles as they should have. But looking at this game, Matthew Stafford coming in, into Tampa, it's good that he picked up his first playoff win, but I don't think he, has that ability to, pull out a win against playoff Tom, because playoff Tom is different, right? So it's gonna be interesting how the Buccaneers are gonna work this offensive line to block Aaron Donald, Von Miller. But they'll always find a way. They'll always find a way to make something work, because then again, they are the defending champs and certainly a contender. So I think I'm gonna have to agree with Unger here. I'm gonna take the Bucks, and this is gonna be a very close game in my opinion. But I'm gonna take the Bucks 30, Rams 24. But before I say one thing, before I leave it to Mr. Ellis, I want y'all to show that same energy y'all had for Lamar Jackson when he lost his first playoff game to Kyler Murray. Those two being compared together, I need that same energy. That's it. That's best.
That's a super fair statement, by the way, I think. Right? Very fair statement. Another fair statement is that I was really wrong last week when I said that Von Miller was done, because that was a different Von Miller we saw out there. So I'm going to eat that one. I swallow lots of swords, just call me the Rizza, man. Raise your swords. I mean, I'm just swallowing them all here, like ghost dog style. But at the end of the day, I'm taking the Rams to win this game, and I am, because I just feel like that defense is hot. I mean, they look good. And I know that the Cards are falling apart. They've been falling apart for a month and a half, like the Steelers were last year. Kind of a similar crumble we saw with them that we saw with us. But what it comes down to is, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Rams can methodically beat them, and I think they will, 20-17. I think they're going to get enough pressure, and when Brady gets that pressure out the middle, he's not good, and he just lost his dog, and Jensen's banged up. I mean, I think these offensive line things are big factors, and you only have to look back as far as last year's Ravens not so buffs game to know what I'm talking about, right? Because the last minute shakeup for Baltimore in those couple of days definitely was the biggest reason why they lost that game. And in my opinion, the reason why they don't have a ring right now, because to me, that was the only team that they matched up poorly with on that stretch. And so when you look at this game, it all comes down to that kind of stuff. And I just think the Rams, I just can't believe I'm picking McVay over Arians here too. But I just feel like they're catching a little fire. Even though they played horribly in Baltimore a couple weeks ago, barely stunk it out. Man, I still can't believe I'm picking the Rams, but I'm taking them. 20-17. Rams get the W. You just don't see the repeat in the NFL unless well, never mind.
Yeah, it is hard to repeat. I mean, I think what you're going to say there is, unless you're the guy who's potentially going to repeat, because that is the case. And it's hard for me.
Setting me up, just shoot me down.
it is hard for me to pick against not just Brady, but the Bucks because of what they did last year. They peaked at the right time, but that's not the way it's gone this year. And losing Godwin, losing Fournette, losing that tackle, because we all know you beat Tom Brady up the middle with a pass rush. And Aaron Donald is a one-man wrecking crew. And if Von Miller's playing like that, he can bring pressure from the outside, stunts, all that kind of stuff. And you're right. If Ryan Kerrigan is taking that tackle down, you can imagine what those guys are going to do to it. Now, Tampa's great at home. They're very good at home. And so that to me, you know, makes it a real tough pick. I think everything you guys have said has been, you know, spot on. And Mr. Ellis, I'm close with you here. Matthew Stafford, people talk all week about did he silence his critics? Did he silence his critics? Played well in that game. He played well. But, you know, can you do it on the road? Can you do it in front of a hostile crowd, so to speak? In Tampa, it's not exactly like going to Buffalo or Green Bay, but he does have the guys to do it. I mean, OBJ, he's always a you know, that away from losing his, you know, bananas on the sideline and throwing stuff and kicking nets and being unhappy about stuff, you know, but when he's not, he's so valuable, you know, and then match him up with Cooper Kupp and Sony Michel's been running well for them too. So I'm making a case for the Rams, but I'm not sure I can pick them in this one because I think Arians, Brady, and Mike Evans have a lot to say about it on the offensive side. So I think for me, I'll stick with the Bucks in this one, but I do think it's going to be tight. I'm going to go Bucks 27 and Rams 24. I do want to say one thing, Rashad, good point about Kyler Murray. I think actually Kyler Murray's been welcomed a little bit more than Lamar has. For one, he was the number one overall pick. And people saw him as being a pocket passer who also happened to be able to run really well. And Lamar was the opposite. He was a runner who was, you know, not a pocket passer. And what was he drafted like 28th, 29th, something like that. But it's definitely a fair comparison because, you know, these young guys play one playoff game where we rule them right out. Although Lamar has never made a throw like that. That was ridiculous. Like that wasn't trying to make something happen. That was like hot potato.
Yeah, I also like it's like at one point in the game, like the Cardinals had like what -11 like offensive yards. I swear, if that was Lamar Jackson, he would get slandered into like the next dimension or whatever the whatever the case could be.
Great point. Yeah,
Great point. Yeah, it's way too much heat on him. Give me a break. Look at the things he does. I think people just take for granted. They think it's something that, you know, anybody can do, and then they just he does so many things on running. He's just so physically talented when he runs. The things he does are just startling. I watched some Louisville highlights a couple of weeks ago that were on. He's like Superman. That you don't like his motion. How is that even a thing?
Like even without, like, you saw how he plays, like, you know, ever since coming back from his injury and losing DeAndre Hopkins, like you see, like his play's been steadily declining. Let's not forget Lamar Jackson won MVP and led the league in touchdowns with Willie Snead, Seth Roberts, and a rookie Hollywood Brown, and what is it, a rookie Mark Andrews as well. He won an MVP just doing that and being a dynamic playmaker. You know what, people just do it for clicks, but like, you know, I still want that same energy shown for
Good point,
Kyler.
Rashad. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a winner. Well said, my man. Well said.
What's the number? What's the number for Lamar? What's the number, Rashad? What's the number?
What you mean?
What's the number? I mean, what's it going to cost? What's he going to go down for? I mean, is he going to be 35? Is he going to be 40? Is he going to be 45? What's he going to be?
Yeah.
Realistically,
Well, it's a real question because the Ravens have massive holes everywhere, Rashad. I mean, this has been a popular conversation in Baltimore this week. Like, look, Huntley wasn't great. He wasn't horrible.
he's good. He's a good backup, 100%.
Right? But it's insanity in my mind to think that they could just be okay with Huntley being the QB next year.
Yeah, and I
let's
see,
sell Lamar down the road. I mean, that's insanity.
And
But it is a popular conversation in Baltimore right now because of all the holes they have, and they have a lot of holes, much like in Pittsburgh.
like, sure, you can make an argument against like Huntley being like a better passer than Lamar, which you can make a good argument against that. But like Lamar is just Lamar. Like he comes in the game, he's the equalizer. He puts the field. He's on the field, and like you said, we said about Derrick Henry, he's probably like one of the top 5 players in the NFL that makes a difference on the field. He'll make something out of nothing. He'll make a 1st and 15 into another 1st and 10. It's it's crazy how much he's being like just thrown under the bus ever since he's gone down with his injury, and like how the Ravens have played ever since, like going from the #1 seed down to last in the
To
division.
winless, yeah, to winless in those games.
Yeah, like and we
Losing
all
to a horrible Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, a horrible
horrible Ben Roethlisberger, but you also saw like this team, like when this team is back at full strength,
Twice,
Lamar
4 times in a row.
like with like the whole offense back, Lamar getting his help back, I think he'll be just fine in the playoffs next year.
It'll be interesting to watch. And I mean, on God sitting there, like, send him 35 miles down, will you? Just send him to Washington. We'll have him for the next 10 years.
I find it comedic though, because I remember Lamar Jackson's first playoff appearance. There was a joke where it got to the point where the offense coordinator, I don't know what he was doing, but they didn't throw the ball for like an hour and a half of real time, and that was so funny to me. I don't know why that was just so comedic, but maybe the Cardinals should have done that because Kyler Murray was just destroying his reputation the entire game. This was horrible.
I think the D had a lot to do with it, fellas. I mean, that D was hot. You know what I mean? Von Miller's like, he's known how to play hot before. He won a championship playing hot. You know what I mean? Like you can see him. His hair was on fire, brothers. He was, I mean,
Yeah.
he was hot. I mean, he was coming across that line. He's like, I'm dominating. And like I said, I watched the guy's whole career. I'm not gonna say anything about him personally. I'm just gonna say that to me, I think he was massively overrated the last couple of years. He's not played well. He's been injured, obviously, but boy, he's healed and he was clearly holding back. That was like legit Von Miller performance in that game. And granted, Arizona ain't great up front, but still, I mean, he balled. You could just see it. He was all over the screen, man. I mean, he was balling.
Well, he hasn't done anything for 10, 12 weeks, so he's plenty of rest.
Yeah.
All right, so our next matchup is the last one of the week, or the division round. We got the not so buff Bills playing the Chiefs. I don't know if I want to call them not so buff. They had a really good game. Yeah. I don't know. Last week they had a great game. Everything seemed to click. Trash Island didn't play like trash. Stephon Diggs stepped up. Micah Hyde stepped up. The whole team had a great game. I think we all had them losing that, I feel like. And they showed up and they showed out. Will they be able to do against this high-powered Chiefs team though? I'm not sure, because with the Patriots, you're battling a rookie quarterback and only a good running back crew and not a too strong wide receiver core. But you go against the Chiefs, they're solid on all fronts on offense. I can't really find a major flaw for them, like a burning hole. They seem to have good players at almost every position in every group, and their defense, for some reason, ever since the second half of against Washington, they decided to start being an amazing team, because something is so offensive about letting Washington score 10 points on you. So they're like, oh, nope, let's stop playing like trash and let's start cooking the entire NFL. So from Washington, I'm sincerely sorry we pissed off the Chiefs and made them actually play like a good team. Because ever since that week, I believe they've been almost top 10 in almost every statistic after being bottom of the league in almost all those same statistics. And they're also just the playoff pedigree. They just seem angry after last year and after all the setbacks had early in the season. This team is out for revenge. And the Chiefs aren't a team I want to play when they're mad. And the Bills are going to get that. And I think the Bills are just going to get crushed because the Chiefs are just built for this. They're built for this playoff stuff. The Bills, they had one good win, but I don't think they're built for it. So give me the Chiefs winning this one. Not too high scoring again. I don't see them putting up 40, but 38-21.
Yeah, I mean, both teams are coming off very impressive victories in the wild card round. The Bills just straight up routing Mr. Woodward's Patriots, and the Chiefs routing Mr. Ellis's Steelers, which was kind of expected. Let's be real here. But I think that
it's expected from a guy whose team hasn't beat us in 2.5 years, so it's okay.
So yeah, I mean, the Bills have like a really good defense, and the Chiefs defense isn't that good, but when you're looking at these two quarterbacks, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, they are just playmakers. They make some insane throws, like Mr. Woodward referenced earlier, like Josh Allen just like casually throwing it away. But I have no idea, how was that a touchdown? Like, it's either it was just a perfectly placed ball for Dawson Knox to see it, or just like, I don't know. And then Patrick Mahomes just running to one side, like completely launching the other side of like the ball to the other side of the field. So I think it's gonna be a shootout. I think these two teams are gonna go neck and neck, blow for blow, like, a fight till the death. So um I would say this is kind of hard to pick because Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs is just elite. Josh Allen in the playoffs is starting to, prove that he's an actual threat. But uh the Chiefs defense is the main reason why I'm leaning towards the Bills this game, because the Chiefs defense they got to figure out a way to stop Stephon Diggs and that team, because when they met earlier in the season, the Bills beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead. So uh it's gonna be a shootout, but give me the Buffalo Bills 38-35.
Woo! Well now. Well now, well now. Very interesting this game is. And of course, the first meeting is not indicative of what we're seeing because these teams are different. I actually think both teams are better than they were when they played the first time. The Bills are definitely more confident. I'm not sure they're better. They're more confident. And I think that showed up when they took on New England. I mean, that was a stunning just result on many levels for me. But again, be coming to a game like this in Kansas City, Melvin Ingram. Remember that guy? Heard that guy? Yeah, the Steelers remember him. He was on our team not too long ago. And there he is. As soon as he comes to Kansas City, all of a sudden they look good. And I know you want to give Washington credit for that resurgence, but I'm going to give it to Melvin Ingram, a guy who knows how to ball and knows how to ball in playoff games when maybe he feels like he's been slighted, like, when he had that all-world playoff game against the Ravens not too long ago. So, I look at this game, though, Kansas City more experienced. Andy Reid been in these kind of games before. This Kansas City offense, they're getting hot, and they're getting hot because the no-name guys are making plays, right? The no-name guys are making plays and tearing things up. And look, Tre'Davious White injury has not shown up yet because, again, like I said last week, New England was a beaten team, much like Pittsburgh. I mean, neither of us were coming into this game ready at all. We both, I mean, the teams were not. They weren't there. But I will say this, we came out swinging in the first quarter, and we punched KC's offense in the mouth for 3 possessions, right? But then the floodgates open. I'm going to tell you right now, our defense is better than Buffalo's. Okay? And I don't care what the stats say. I don't care what records say. Right? We have more talent on our defense than Buffalo does. And yeah, maybe they've played better down the stretch than we have. We've had a lot of injuries, things of that nature. Buffalo's been a little more fortunate besides the Tre'Davious White, which was significant. But at the end of the day, their defense is not a game-changing defense. Right? Yeah, they made a great play against Mac to then open the game and lopside it, but that has not been the norm. And I don't expect it to be in this situation either. I'm taking KC to win this football game 34-20. And taking it because this team's more experienced and they're better coached ultimately, even though I think McDermott has done a great job. I got to give the Bills credit. I hate them. You know this, guys, but I got to give them credit. They've had a hell of a year, and congratulations to the not so buff fans who, I still have no respect for, but hey, everybody's, got to get a little luck sometime, right?
Even a blind man knows when the sun is shining. The amazing thing about this one, is these two teams, we've seen this before, right? I mean, these guys have played each other. They've been good matchups. They know each other. Granted, they're a little bit different, each time because of injury or who somebody picked up. But I love that they're playing. This seems more like an AFC Championship game to me. I'm not to put Tennessee and Cincy on the back burner too much, but based on what I saw last week, I think Mr. Ellis makes good points. I picked the Patriots last week, but that's just because I'm a homer. The point of it is Buffalo clearly has more of a well-rounded game, and the Patriots just don't have that passing game that can do it consistently, and if that means you can just lock down the run game. Kansas City's more interesting. They certainly come a long way since the beginning of the year when people were sort of writing them off and saying, I don't know if they were saying there's a time for a change in Kansas City coming off a Super Bowl win, a Super Bowl appearance, but they definitely were talking, and now they're not. And so they have righted the ship. They finished second in the conference, and I think hosting this game makes a big difference for them, and that ultimately is where it's going to fall again. Well, part of me really, I would like to see Buffalo. I like seeing new teams move into it. I think that they have done it the right way. They've, drafted a lot of these guys. They've brought some guys in. Obviously, they brought in the right guys. I think as much as I like talking about BB getting to McDermott's head, he has done a good job. They've stuck with it. They built off of that loss that they had to the Pats, where the Pats only threw the ball 3 times. So all those things to say that whole time, all those storylines have happened. The Chiefs have just been there. They've just been plugging along. They're better players, start playing stronger games. Patrick Mahomes writes, his gyroscope to get himself back on track and not just tossing the ball up there. The one thing that I think is interesting in this one is for Josh Allen. Like, he needs to play against the Chiefs, not against Patrick Mahomes. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's a great player. If he plays the way he did last week, he's his own thing. But he's not Patrick Mahomes. So you can't go out there and do the things he does. That's just like nobody's Lamar Jackson. You can't go out and play the way Lamar plays. And these guys are at the top of the heap, or close to the top of the heap, in the quarterbacks, and the way they play, they run, they move, they step up in the pocket. Josh Allen was running downhill, as I said before. And Patrick Mahomes, he just turns far too many plays that are nothing into something. And I think in this one, in the playoffs, this is his chance, just like we talked about Aaron Rodgers, to shine. I think the divisional round is great for him. And so ultimately, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be high scoring again. I'm going to go with the 34-28 in this one. Chiefs.
Just to go back to me saying we made the Chiefs a good team. We made Patrick Mahomes good. He threw more interceptions before he played us than after. He had 8 interceptions coming into our game. After that, he had 7. So Washington is the reason the Chiefs are winning the Super Bowl. Just my early prediction. Mr. Ellis, he looks like you have something to say.
Nah, just who on Chief owns. I don't think anyone owns Chiefs, because they're gonna get it done here, guys. I think. But hey, if they don't, it'll be exciting. You're right. It'll be different, right? But boy, but you sit back though. If you're Baltimore though, and I hate to keep bringing this up, Shah, but if you're Baltimore, you got to be sitting back kicking yourself at this point though, because you're like, boy, there was a huge window in these last 2 or 3 seasons where the FC was good, but it wasn't like there wasn't one team who was just killing everybody. You know what I mean? Like, but the injuries this year were killers. But boy, this Lamar thing is going to be very interesting. It really is, because it's going to be deeper than just, is this our quarterback? You know what I mean? Because there's so much going on in Baltimore, much like in Pittsburgh. And people want to talk in Pittsburgh about, it's all about the quarterback. No, it's actually not all about the quarterback. It's all about the fact that you spent $30+ million a year on a franchise player that isn't a franchise player. No, I said it again, and people can laugh, and and I've heard it time and time again, but show me one play he made after the first quarter. Show me one play he made after that TD. Show me 3 straight possessions he was on the field in the second half. You can't show me any of that, guys. You can't. And so you can sit here and say that he makes a splash play here and there, and yes, he does. Right? Brian Urlacher, rode that all the way to a championship of a Hall of Fame appearance. Not a championship trophy, of course, but same time, Brian Urlacher had 1 million tackles on top of those impactful plays. And I don't care. You want to say they play a different position, different time. But the point being, Watt has taken on that Urlacher role of just being this, this Caucasian linebacker throwback, right? But at the end of the day, the results don't measure up in the games that count. And I think he got away with it and got the pass because of certain things. Will Lamar get that same pass for losing multiple playoff games that weren't necessarily his doing? Will he get that same pass? I'm right with you there, Rashad, in that conversation that you started at the beginning of the show, which I thought was brilliant. And it's something for us to think about carrying into the offseason. I think this Jackson contract is going to be more than just about his performance. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what Baltimore does here, because they need to make the right decision here.
Yeah, I want to give a quick thought on that. Like, definitely, it's gonna be it's gonna be a concern coming into the offseason because we don't know how much Lamar wants. I mean, Lamar, as far as I know, he's doing this whole contract negotiation thing on his own. He doesn't even have an agent. Like, his agent is his mom. But it's if I had to give him a number, I want the Ravens to at least spend. I think the max I want them to spend is at least maybe 29 and to 31. Prefer 29 is like a number I'm good with. Like paying Lamar a 4-year, $29 million contract would be optimal in my opinion. But looking at the offseason, I think that there's besides Lamar, that 14-2 season, I thought we were going to win the Super Bowl that year. That was a magical. That was like one of the best years ever watched of Ravens football in my life, and I honestly like thought we were going to win it until Derrick Henry came. But like the year after 2020, I guess it was a good year. Lamar got his first playoff win, but I think coming into this year, missing the playoffs, due to injuries, which is probably the biggest factor. I think the Ravens just got to address a lot of key things in the offseason, coaching wise. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Us might losing Wink Martindale to the Giants as their new head coach. So it's it's a lot of things that we have to address, like contractually and uh just culture wise. I think a lot of players might be let go, and a lot of players might be signed. But like it's gonna be a busy offseason for Eric DeCosta, and I think this is a good offseason for him to prove why he's why he can be a top GM in the NFL. So certainly a lot of a lot of mysteries surrounding the season, but like they say, like in all due time, we will see what happens.
I mean, ultimately, there's two things to that. One, I think you need to sign him just because his mom's his agent. I mean, how can you not want that guy? I mean, and you can pay him a little bit less because you don't have any fees that are going out to these agencies and big time people, So, I mean, it's not like you're signing a lesser guy. You're signing the guy.
You're
So it would be
signing
interesting.
a generational talent.
Sure, absolutely. And this also shows, the whole point. I mean, I think we all agree, that the surprise whenever Lamar has a good passing game and all these, it's so much background noise to me now when he's one of these top 5 guys and his game is his game. Josh Allen's is his game, Aaron Rodgers is his game and whatnot. So, I mean, comparing them is not, they're playing the same position, they're not playing it the same way. But the interesting thing is what you just said is, Rashad, this is what it's like for so many other teams. Like you're going through a period where maybe they're not drafting as well as they used to. They're going to have to let some guys go and have turnovers. The Ravens have been around this, and just as the Steelers have, the Patriots have. I'm very sorry on that, but it's been what 20 years. I mean, it's older than you, but I mean they have been around this. They've been in the mix every single year,
As
and
far as
so
I know, we've always been, aside from a couple of years, we've always been a team like and you said, like in the mix, like with all these other teams, like
absolutely
even with Flacco,
100% with
oh,
Flacco. They won
like
the Super Bowl.
even after he won the Super Bowl, he put up a couple of good years until he took his slump. But the Ravens always know we have a winning culture here. Like Harbaugh being a great head coach, he always preaches good things to his team, and that's what I think there's a lot of fight in this team this season because of the culture. Culture has always been great in Baltimore.
I've said too many nice things about them. I'm done.
I feel like
I
all the
used
things
up my year's worth of nice things about the Ravens. I'm over.
all the things Rashad just said, I feel like a lot of that weighs on what they do with Lamar Jackson because he's the face of your franchise. Like all this winning culture and stuff starts with him. I would give him a blank check because
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
those other holes in your roster, losing Lamar Jackson, there's no fixing that.
He is our offense. The offense
He is
runs
your
through
organization. He is literally your entire organization. If you guys lose him, if
Maybe.
you guys lose him, that's goodbye to all your national TV games, all your primetime games. No one's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
watch the Ravens.
Yeah.
You guys without him. You guys went what 0-5 without him.
Yeah. We ever since Lamar went down, we lost every game after. after.
If I'm John Harbaugh, I'm handing him a blank check. I'm messaging every day like, "Hey Lamar, that blank check is waiting for you. You can come in and sign it
Yeah, but
whenever
as
you
Mr.
want."
Ellis said, they have all these other holes to fill too. You got to be
Yeah.
smart about it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I think that's why I'm saying, do you franchise him just this year? But here's the thing: I don't think the cap will ever be better than it is this year, right? So you better pay him right now and immediately. And let's hope they do, guys, because there's nothing going to be more fun than just this rivalry continuing in the AFC North. I hope we can find someone to rival. Not quite sure that's going to happen at this point because we paid a linebacker $30 million who impacts 7 to 8 plays a game.
Yeah.
So with that said, you put yourself in a really bad position. And we'll see what happens. But I think both of our teams are in a really bad position. And I think we put ourselves in this position by, as Mr. Woodward said, whiffing on some early round picks, which is uncharacteristic of both of our organizations.
Patriots have been doing
Even the
it for years.
mid-round picks, like actually, we kind of whiffed on them. I'm not sure we whiffed on the early round picks. I want to rephrase it. I think Baltimore and Pittsburgh have whiffed on like 3 through 5 recently.
And that's
what I've seen,
the
which is
heart of
not
your
normal
team,
for
really.
us. Normally,
That's
we
what Washington has been
make our
great
bread
at.
there. Yeah.
Washington has been cooking round 3 through 5. Terry McLaurin, Samuel Cosme, Benjamin St. Juste, Antonio Gibson. That's our
See,
bread
there
and
you
butter.
go. We were teeing you up. We were setting you up.
Yep.
Yeah, we were teeing you up there, buddy.
The past 2-3 years, I've been messaging Rashawn. 3rd round starts. It's prime time. That's what I watch. Y'all watch 1st round. I watch 3rd round. But
Tell me when the first round's over.
I don't care about who walks out, grabs that jersey. I want to see the guy that's sitting with his mom at home, getting that phone call out of the
Right.
middle of nowhere. That's what I need.
He's going to work hard.
Wake me up when the 5th round ends.
That's where we've been hitting. But
Oh man, must be nice.
hey, it's okay, Rashad.
Must be nice.
It must be nice.
But that's where your bread's buttered, It's like that in any sport. Look at the NBA. Who wins a championship? Not the team that has the best starting 5, the team that has the best, 9. So at the end of the day, you got to have that depth in the playoffs. Again, the reason why I'm taking the Niners, even despite the injuries, I just don't think the Green Bay, when it counts, can be physical enough. But we'll see. I could be wrong, but they've also played such a soft schedule that and also catching teams at the right time. Like you caught Baltimore at the right time without Lamar. You caught the Steelers when they were 1-2 coming in 1-3 to Lambeau. You know what I mean? Like not only did your schedule, work, but it broke well for you. So to me, much like the Steelers in 2017, I think that Packers are not nearly as good as their record. And that's why I think they're getting upset, because I think they're a version of the 2017 Steelers. And Ben's stats, by the way, if you look them up in 2017 compared to Rodgers, I think 3 interceptions different. Everything else pretty comparable.
Good point.
There's no better way of it ending for Washington fans, because 3 of our former assistant coaches are alive in the playoffs right now. So a fun little fact to go out for my Washington fans that
thriving in the playoffs.
Keep in mind the Redskins went 3-13 with those 3 cute, and they decided to hire Jay Gruden.
Hey, okay, Jay Gruden, he looked like he was a future. Obviously, he was not. I don't know what we were doing, but hey, at least we had some good years with those coordinators.
Well, he'll do the same thing Dan Quinn's doing. Although the Cowboys didn't play great on defense last week, but he'll go back to coordinating positions and be great. But he's not a head coach. I mean, his neither is his brother, but his brother got away with it for a while because he was a lunatic on the sidelines, and people kind of like that or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I heard reports of a raving lunatic at the Hooters on Route 1 in Laurel. Was that Jay Gruden last week? No.
Oh.
It was Urban Meyer. He was.
Oh.
And with that,
I think that's a great note to end on. It's been a great week. Hopefully, you have a great week of divisional rounds. It's been PBHS Edge, guys. Stay safe. Enjoy the football. Can't wait to see how the season ends. Have a great day, guys. See you.